What's going on, y'all? That boy Gam back in the building, tapping in with y'all one more time. Y'all, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But today, I was just checking out a video of Terrence Howard on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? He says Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton were wrong. Now, am I the only person who didn't know that Terrence Howard was a real genius? Am I the only person who didn't know that? Like, I was surprised all of a sudden he come out and he is like literally talking like a legit genius. He got patents. He said he figured this stuff out when he was a kid. He even said that he kind of sold himself short by becoming an actor and pursuing acting because he believed that he was way too smart for acting. And from the stuff that he's saying on here, it kind of sounds like he not lying. You know, it's easy for people to excuse this like this is just crazy. He just talking crazy. But Joe Rogan is also a pretty smart guy. He talked to a lot of people, smart people on the show, geniuses. And he is sound like he leaning towards he believed Terrence Howard. He believed that he got a point, and a lot of other people believe that Terrence Howard is actually right. I'm surprised. I never knew he was a genius, man. He was on Empire, Lucius. You know, he was Hustle and Flow, playing a role as a pimp, Get Rich or Die Trying, all kind of things. I was always a fan of his movies, but I didn't know he was a legit genius, man. I'm gonna just play this just so y'all can see what I mean.
You show me a real straight line in nature. If everything in the universe, everything is expressed in motion, all motion expressed in waves, all waves were curved. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the greater the action, the greater the reaction. The greater the reaction, the greater the resistance. The greater the resistance, the greater the curvature. Because the universe is based off of equanimity, which Einstein left out in his theory of relativity, the balancing side of the gravity was caused by electric force. Electricity is always seeking a higher pressure condition. It spins northeast, is trying to get to the center of an area, the center of a cone. But the next electric wave is coming, so it gets pushed out, and as it's pushed out, it gets to the vortices. And that's some on those pieces, those vortices. Now, instead of it spinning northeasternly, centripetally, it's forced to spin centrifugally, and it spins southwesternly. And it expands itself out, it decays, it keeps decaying until you get 4 magnetic waves that hit each other at 120-degree angles. At that point, they reconvert back into the electric field, and then they make their way back to their source again, whether it's the star, whatever star it came into. What happens when we get up?
I'm gonna just pause it for a second. A lot of people not even following what is he saying because he talking, you know, he talking on a level where it's kind of like, man, I don't even understand what you saying. I haven't been in school for a long time, haven't been in science or biology class, all that for a long time. But the way that he's just using these words and terms and he understand, it don't sound like, oh, he just crazy and he just came up with all of this somehow. No, it sounds like he legitimately he know exactly what he's talking about.
We expand at our equator, right? We get shorter at the top. Why? Because the electric force is pushing in and condensing, and the magnetism expands out at the equator. The electron field, the electrons, that's just discharged electricity, devitalized electricity, coming from the sun, coming from the earth. It's the waste product from it. But it hits our magnetic field, and then it gets pulled right back in and gets compressed again, and now it becomes electricity for the Earth, and then it pushes itself right back out again at the equator. The equator is 5 miles wider than the poles. Electricity, Einstein left that out of his equation because he coupled electricity and magnetism together and didn't realize that electricity was the equal and opposite of magnetism. Electricity being the contractive field. You breathe in, that's a contractive thing. You breathe out, that's a magnetic thing, a radiative thing. But they use the term magnet as an attractor. But to magnify something means to what? Make it larger, increase the space. That's the work of radiation. That's what Walter Russell was talking about all those years. That's the work of radiation. It's the electricity between the things that pull them together. The Coulomb force that supposedly opposites attract and push each other away. If that was true, then hot air and cold air would seek each other out. They're the same substance, but but in a different state. They move in opposite directions from each other. Hot water and cold water move in opposite directions from each other. The reason two magnets seem like the North Pole is attracted to the South Pole, because if you had two rivers or two hoses with water coming out of them, and you pointed them at each other, what are they going to do? They're going to be pushing against each other. But they align to where the male enters the female and is able to come out. So they've been fooled by their senses. They've been fooled by their eyes, and
Listen, you gotta be a bold person to say that Albert Einstein got it wrong and you actually got the right answer. You gotta be a bold person, man, or very confident in what you're saying, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying that Albert Einstein did not catch this point that he caught.
Have missed the whole picture of it. Are you familiar with Khalil Gibran?
Yes.
He wrote a book, he wrote The Prophet, 1923, but he wrote another book called Sand and Foam. In that book, he told a story of a man who had been away from his family for 4 months working, and he was excited to come home, and as he was coming home, he knew that the mountain, when he saw the mountain, that he was close to home. So his 5 senses started having a conversation, and his eyes says, I see a mountain, I see a mountain, I see a mountain. And so the ears perked out and said, I don't hear a mountain. The nose sniffed and said, I don't smell a mountain. The tongue tasted the air. I don't taste a mountain. And the other 4 senses started speaking among themselves, and they came to the conclusion that there must be something the matter with the eye, because they couldn't perceive it. But all of these things, we've been misled just because we've been fooled by our senses. Our eyes see.
That's deep, though. He said all the other senses basically said that the eyes was crazy. Now, how many of us have been in situations where we knew something, but the crowd of people who didn't know it was bigger? So whatever they said became what was true, and whatever you were saying, you crazy. Just because they couldn't all see it and there's more of them. That happens in life a lot.
0.05% of the entire electromagnetic wave. We're blind cosmically, but we judge everything by what we see. And they've done that with science for so many years. You look at E equals MC squared. That talks about expansion. It does not show how it's divided. You've never breathed in twice without breathing out. You breathe in and you breathe out. You charge and you discharge. So how is it that the breathing in, they're acting as if the universe is just expanding out, breathing out, and it's going to dissipate out, and they never include the contractive side of it, breathing in, because they were misled by Newton, who said everything moves in a straight line unless affected by something else. And we know that not to be true. But they built the entire two-dimensional plane, the Euclidean space that we live on, that we work on, that we try and define curved nature by two-dimensional space, and we never include the curvature, the breathing in. Like Alan Watts said, no one would be attracted to a Euclidean woman because she would just be straight, all straight lines. It's the wiggliness, it's the curvature that brings the balance. Everything has to have the balance. You know, the electric side and the magnetic side.
So, y'all just watched it, right? It's they got a whole podcast, like a whole episode together that's like, how long is it? 3 hours long. So if you go on the Joe Rogan actual page, you will find the whole interview, 3 hours long, of him talking like that. You know what I'm saying? And Joe Rogan even looking like, what? Really? And then a few times he'll say, well, that actually do make sense. But really, most of the time, we all just sitting there listening to him like, what? And who heard him talk like this throughout all the time he was acting? You know, it's a shame. He said he knew he was a genius as a kid. He pursued acting to impress his mom because his mom wanted his younger brother to be an actor. I guess something like that. Don't quote me. You have to watch it for yourself. But she wanted his younger brother to be an actor, so she gave the younger brother a lot of attention. So he wanted that attention too. So he pursued being an actor also. And just so happened he was good at it. But man, of course you probably gonna be good at that. Look at how you talking. You kind of did sell yourself even short. You could have been changing the world. I mean, not saying you didn't change the world in some kind of ways by being an actor and a public figure, but he talking about having a cure for cancer and stuff like that with this theory that he is explaining, and I don't even understand it all the way. But what I do know is that he was saying that by the things he's learned, that they should be able to cure cancer and other diseases based off of sound and sound waves, because the sound affects the cells and things inside of the body. So you can do things inside of the body without going in the body physically, just from the sound of it. And it's deep though. So I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. Y'all subscribe to the channel, but y'all go check out this whole interview, cause I can't be the only one who didn't know that Terrence Howard was that smart. So till next time, y'all, Gam tapping out.